Hello, everyone. My name is Lyudmyla Kozlovska. I'm representative of the Open Dialogue Foundation. I'm human rights defender and Bitcoin advocate. I have an honor today to moderate this, I think, some kind of not really maybe exciting funnel, because no one likes regulation. Everyone thinks that it's biased regulation. But we as activists, and actually some of our representatives in the panel, regulated exchanges, associations, we have to face it. We cannot run away. We live and it's our home in Europe. So we don't want to actually give the right to overregulate Bitcoin. And from other sides, we looking for solutions. We want to present three perspectives. Why Bitcoin advocates, human rights defenders like us, actually defending and educating regulators about the use, social use of Bitcoin, especially Bitcoin mining, how we use privacy instruments, mixers, peer-to-peer transactions, self-hosted wallets, how it's called in regulation. And from other perspectives, how actually regulated exchanges has to comply with this law. What it means afterward this law is actually applied for such people like us, and what mining association, trying to do with this, what their approach. So let me introduce and actually give a few moments for our guests to say a few words about yourself. So Sven, can you just maybe start us a little bit who you are, what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Trigger warning at the beginning. So I'm the banker in this panel. I'm actually working for a regulated cryptocurrency exchange who does custodial work in the Bitcoin and other crypto token space.
Okay.
I'm a bit, yeah. Let the tomatoes fly, right? Let the tomatoes fly. So I'm a Bitcoiner at heart, and there are several reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing, and I do believe that this is right for a lot of things, and I'm looking forward to this panel.
Yeah. Rachel, please tell us what exactly your role.
Okay, so just a few words. My name is Rachel. I'm born in the UK, but I've become a European, and I'm a passionate European. I work for TerraHash Space. I don't know if anyone saw on the main stage the other day. We're a German company. We're doing research into renewable energy with Bitcoin mining, and we are working on turnkey solutions for industry who are looking to incorporate Bitcoin mining in their processes. And I love living in Europe, and I know that I want to stay living in Europe if possible. And so I put together, along with a great group of people, the European Bitcoin Energy Association, in order to help develop an understanding, because he's teaching me all the political language, because I'm not political. Why do they need to understand what proof of work is? In my opinion, Europe needs Bitcoin and Europe needs Bitcoin mining. Is not the other way around, and we need to help them to understand why they need it. So, and I knew if we're going to have any success at all, we need to have the right people sitting at the table, which is why you go for the crypto guy, because he speaks the language of the European Union.
Thank you, Rachel. And now, Bota, please introduce yourself and say why you use Bitcoin.
Hi everyone, my name is Bota Jardemalie. I'm originally from Kazakhstan. I am a lawyer. I'm actually a US trained lawyer, member of New York Bar. I'm a human rights defender. We've been working together with our moderator Lyudmyla for almost 15 years. And although I'm originally from Kazakhstan, I have political asylum in Belgium because of the nature of the work that I've been doing for almost 2 decades.
So, Bota, maybe we will start from you, because this is something what I want to address specifically. Activists all over the world have to use Bitcoin. EU established so-called, we want it or we don't want, golden standards of regulation, which afterwards, when it's adopted here, is going to be replicated in other jurisdictions. So what problems you see in regulation, especially for activists? Can you also explain on your example, how it affects you, how it affects other activists living in Europe and actually living in authoritarian states?
Yeah, I think I'll talk a little bit about my case, so it kind of puts into perspective why people like me using Bitcoin and how we discovered Bitcoin. So
In Europe, this is
in
important.
Europe, yeah, we are in Europe. I have asylum in Europe. You would think that I am actually, quite protected being here. But that's not actually the case because of the work that I'm doing, and I'm working on the complicated cases of politically motivated persecution, torture. We work to release political prisoners in the former Soviet Union countries and different parts of the world as well. So when you do this type of work, you constantly under attack, especially when you're effective, especially when you achieve the results and you force the governments to release political prisoners, or you bring attention of Western governments to the systemic tortures that are happening in other jurisdictions. So I was under attack of my home country, Kazakhstan, and they tried to extradite me from Kazakhstan. It didn't work. They sent the agents. They tried to kidnap me from the territory of Belgium. That didn't work either because Belgian police, you probably would be surprised, but they were actually very good, and they arrested 3 people and 2 Germans, 1 Russian national, and they were sentenced in Belgium. And so they tried to get me different ways. And what they found effective, they sent people to spy on me, try to find who I work with, who are my contacts, etc., etc. But what they did, they actually used the anti-money laundering regulations and treaties that exist in the world. And they accused me in money laundering. And then using that as pretext, they sent the request to Belgian banks and received all my Belgian data. And if you remember what you have on your bank statement, you understand that your banking data is a roadmap to your life. It's all your contacts, your doctors, your points of contacts. And unfortunately, sometimes, like in my case, I had my family in Kazakhstan. My banking data reveals that I had connections with them. And so what happened after that, my brother in Kazakhstan was arrested, and they decided to use him as a hostage, as political hostage. They told him, we're going to put you for 20 years behind bars if you don't convince your sister to go back to Kazakhstan. And my brother refused to cooperate. So they accused him in money laundering, they tortured him, and only because of the interference of Western politicians, actually European Parliament, US senators, UN, the government was, in the end of the day, was forced to release him. But they had my data. They had my data and they could abuse that. And what they're always trying to do, they try to find data of every activist around the world, because they understand that banking, it's something is kind of, you cannot function about it. So this is the first thing that usually gets attacked. And it's very easy attacked because it's always a pretext that you are doing money laundering, or you financing terrorist activities, or you are part of an extremist organization and financing extremist activities. So what happened in Belgium, because of these attacks, Kazakhstan in parallel conducted a smear campaign online against me. And one day I received letters from my banks, Belgian banks, saying that they don't want to see me as a client anymore. So all Belgian banks shut down for me. I was so-called de-risked. So even I had all the decisions, I had to prove that I'm an innocent person, that this is a smear campaign, this is politically motivated attack. I'm protected by Belgium. I still couldn't have a bank account. So you start looking for an options. And that happened not only to me, it's actually happened to Lyudmyla as well, like in a very similar fashion, and I think you should mention that, and to the organization itself, Open Dialogue Foundation.
So maybe allow me, please. Yeah, actually, what I mentioned, Open Dialogue Foundation, we were financially excluded because of 3 authoritarian states weaponized our banking data. And they actually go in all after our donors and all our recipients, because the same case how they went after brother of Bota, they did exactly the same, but in scale for everyone who supported us, my family members, me, and people around us. Our volunteers, over 600 people, our even accountant, so literally everyone. And I want to ask Sven, so tell me, please, right now you actually developing anti-money laundering regulation and, for example, also ESG indicators for Bitcoin mining. So can we ignore this actually regulation? How is it going to affect? Do we should actually, if really say what's happened with banking data can be repeated with crypto asset services provider data? What is your approach?
Yeah, absolutely. So what happened to you does happen in the Bitcoin and in the cryptocurrency space when you're a regulated player as well, and happens with us all the time. So when we get a legal request, we have the obligation to obey this legal request, whatever that request might be. So if there is in some shape or form, legal request coming to us, we are obliged to give out the data because otherwise we would lose our license. That is just the way it is. You may like it or you may not like it, but that's simply the way it is when you work with a regulated environment. And there's plenty of things in the regulated environment that I don't agree with. There's stuff in the regulated environment that I do agree with. And I believe that it is important that we do the best that we can in order to find a balance of things where the politicians who are doing the laws still can accept it, which is still in some of the cases not the best scenario that I would hope for, but it's the best outcome that you can get. And I think that each and every individual should actually more use their power, what most of them are not doing. So when you guys go home today or in a week or so, don't go on Twitter when some politician says something that you disagree with and write "have fun staying poor" below it, because they might not even have a Twitter account. Write to that person and say, hey, you know what? My next election decision will be heavily based on your stance of Bitcoin. Are you pro-Bitcoin or are you against Bitcoin? Because that is valuable for my voting decision. I made the experience that this is one of the most motivating factors for politicians to actually do something and think about it. And I think it's good that they are getting a better understanding of how this whole system works.
Thank you. Yeah,
And
actually,
wait, well, hold on, let me add one thing to that. So you could ask, being the person I am, why am I working in such an environment? And the answer to this is very, very simple. We just yesterday, or the day before yesterday, announced our integration within the second largest bank in Germany. So that means that we are now effectively onboarding 30 million people. That's 30 million people to Bitcoin. Thanks. That'll be at first be a fully custodial service. That will be a KYC service. But this is the way it starts. And it would never have happened if we would have not been regulated as hell, and if we would not do KYC, it just wouldn't happen. And I'm proud of that, and that's the reason why I'm, dealing with all of these things that I might not agree with in the first place. But this is how we cross the chasm. And this is happening right now, and I'm an integral part of it, and that's what keeps me going.
Rachel, actually, if I may ask you, how you as actually activist, Bitcoin activist, advocate, also try to organize industry to educate, to do, more friendly Bitcoin for all of this, let's say, people who want to regulate and sometimes have no clue what they regulate, actually?
I think it's all about building up relationships. And it's all about putting the right people at the table who speak the same language as the person that's sitting opposite. So with the company that I'm working for, TerraHash, Germany, after the Second World War, is built up on these family businesses. It's called the Mittelstand, and it's the backbone of Germany, the Wirtschaftswunder of Germany after the Second World War. And these are all these mid-sized family-run companies. And that's actually the company that I'm working for. We've been around for 75 years. We produce made-in-Germany products for the car industry, for cosmetics, etc., etc. And we identified a problem for us. Our electricity bill was too expensive. And so we started thinking, okay, we've got solar on the roof. We need a lot of hot water. Let's put a couple of Bitcoin miners down in the cellar. Let's get some hot water, get the heat from the miners, use it for our production. And that's how it started. And then we thought, well, wait a minute, if this is a solution for us, this is going to be a solution for a lot of companies in Germany, in Europe. And then we set up a Bitcoin-only company, and we made a research lab. And the very first thing that happened, because we're a trusted company, we've been around for 75 years, people don't look at us and think that we're some kind of Bitcoin weirdos. The television came. The politicians come. We've had politicians of nearly every single party. They walk into the lab. They see the cold water going in. They see it going through the computers. They see it coming out the other side, nice and hot. And they say, what, that's Bitcoin mining? Because they think it's something dirty and they think it's... And all you need to do is show, don't tell. So what our strategy is and what we're doing with eBeer, we're working together on many different fronts. We're working together with the European miners. We need showcases. We need pilot projects where we can collect the facts and figures and we can show if you incorporate Bitcoin mining, whether it's for grid stabilization, whether it's the demand response, the methane mitigation, whatever it is, we're putting together these projects, and that is how you are going to convince the politicians. If we can convince industry that they need Bitcoin mining and it's working, I can tell you we get calls from big electricity companies in Germany. They all know what the problem is. We have a problem with energy. And if you talk about we have a problem with energy and we have something that could be part of the solution, their ears are open, they will listen, then you get a dialogue, then you're in there and you can make a difference.
Perfect. And actually, I want to ask Bota, what we as human rights defenders can actually do together with Bitcoiners, especially to address, this so-called threats. What kind of regulatory threats, first of all, we have, and what audience people sitting here can do actually to support both us as human rights defenders, Bitcoin advocates, Rachel, and actually regulated entities from a Bitcoin community?
We started working on Bitcoin advocacy because we had to, and I'll explain. When we faced the issue of financial exclusion, when the banks were shut down for us, we started looking for activists around, and we realized that it's a big systemic problem. This is what we face personally. It actually exists in all Western jurisdictions, and it's a growing problem because of the increasing compliance mechanisms that basically imposed by the Financial Action Task Force and kind of trickles down to all jurisdictions around the world. So we had to go, what we normally do, we had to go to the members of the parliament, specifically European Parliament and key member states, as well as the regulators, and talk about financial inclusion and saying that you have problem with your AML regulations. And because of that, we are forced to use Bitcoin. And we got extremely negative reaction. We were accused of how, guys, we thought that you're human rights defenders. This is extremely unethical. We defending you, and you are using this instrument that is used for illicit trading. It's used by criminals. And
energy.
And yeah, it's bad for the environment, and it's actually wasteful for the energy. And you are fighting against Putin's regime, and you are helping him in a way that you want to have. We have this energy crisis, and because of it, this is partially because of Putin, partially because of the mining. So it's it's very convenient way to blame your failure of energy policy on Bitcoin mining, and extremely ridiculous and extremely dangerous. And this is how...
Why actually it's easy to blame Bitcoin mining in Europe?
Because they don't know much. They don't see many examples like Rachel just mentioned. And it's very convenient, right? And the problem is that the regulators and a lot of politicians, because the regulators, they have their own agenda. They usually... they're professional bureaucrats, right? And they are pushing agenda of the European Central Bank and other institutions. And elected politicians, unfortunately, very often, because they have tons of problems, they have farmers on one side, on the other side, they have a growing number of pensioners, etc., etc. So they haven't been educated about Bitcoin. They don't know about its use. They don't know about any positive benefit of Bitcoin mining.
Well, but what is our take then in this whole thing? So there's always two ways to approach a problem, or at least I believe that there's always like two ways to approach a problem. And when you have a politician, let's assume we have a politician. That politician has not yet that understanding how positive Bitcoin can be for the world. Then we can either blame the politician that he is not educating himself enough. That's one route to go. And the other route to go is that you can ask yourself, what do I have to do, or what can I do in order to make this better? And I mean, founding EBIA, the European Bitcoin Energy Association, by the way, if you're a miner and you're mining either in Europe or anywhere else, please reach out to us afterwards. We are trying to do exactly that. For that, you sometimes have to, you most of the time have to speak or try to speak their language and their lingo in order to actually go through. That's what we are trying to do. And we have to be fair. When you're looking at numbers, and if somebody disagrees, please again hit me up, like either way, directly or after the conference. We weren't actually really good in producing numbers that you can rely on. So you have the Daniel Battens of this world who's going with his ideas about how good Bitcoin energy mining is. Then you have the central bankers, the De Vriesens of this world, who have understandably, the different take on it. But there has not yet been a model where real scientifically proven, and this is what we're trying to achieve, that actually shows that.
Because I think the problem that we have at the moment is that the legislation is so top down, and so what we need to achieve with EBIA is that is not just top down, it's bottom up. And we're hoping that because I work in the mining industry myself, we need to work together with the European miners. We need to also, but there's a lot of mistrust about the miners because they think that they're going to be regulated. They think that they're going to be banned. My experience is actually, listen, politicians are also just people. And I know from a personal thing how difficult it was for me to understand Bitcoin mining, and they're in exactly the same situation. We were in the German parliament last week with a big Bitcoin logo up on the German parliament wall, giving a talk about why Bitcoin mining is. There were politicians there. They were writing it all down. We took miners into the parliament. They came, they were asking fantastic questions. It's assume best intentions and you get further. And I think that if everybody works on their little area, who do you know? Start talking to them. Build up networks, find the people who can get you where you need to, cooperate with the people. Don't work against them. Cooperate with them. How can we help you? What can we do to help you? And that's a more efficient way of moving forward so that we can push this ball.
Yep. I absolutely agree with what you said, but I just want to add a little bit of urgency to the situation because we need to understand that it's something that it has to be done now. It's very important to get engaged as soon as possible because the problem is the following. Basically, the perception, or it's something that very much pushed by European Central Bank, that Bitcoin doesn't have social benefit. And here we explain what is the social benefit, why certain communities have to use Bitcoin, how it helps civil society, opposition, etc., etc. But at the same time, imagine right now in the EU, because the EU is trying to achieve its Green Deal objective, because they're doing the transition. So if the asset doesn't have social benefit and at the same time using energy, it's basically kind of doomed to be banned, right? So this is important right now, get engaged, because right now European Commission and the European Securities and Market Authorities, they're developing sustainability indicators, they're developing the way how they're going to measure basically sustainability impact of Bitcoin mining and other crypto assets. And the problem is a huge problem that while they're developing it, the language that they're using is already extremely biased. So the methodologies that they're developing, unless we get interfere it's going to be basically the confirmation of how they already perceive Bitcoin mining. They call it obsolete consensus mechanism, energy wasting mechanism, and harmful for environment. So I just agree with what you said, but I think that you need to understand that you need to involve
how to involve Bota, because this is important and we have few minutes left. What exactly can do actually Bitcoin miners, investors, Bitcoiners to help actually both industry and us activists?
Yeah, I'll speak on our behalf, and you're ready to explain. We, as human rights defenders, because we faced this question, we created Bring True Change Coalition, BTC Coalition, where in our coalition we have activists, human rights defenders, as well as Bitcoin miners, developers, professionals, and we write down testimonies of the industry participants, and we go to meet with politicians, with the regulators. We conducted over 200 meetings only in the EU, meeting with really with a lot of institutions, and we provide our written testimonies. And it's now important. It's really important right now because European ESMA, European Securities and Market Authority, they are right now conducting public consultations about the methodologies that I just mentioned. So please come to us and we will explain how you can get involved and work together with ESMA.
Let me ask one question to the crowd, because I do believe that's very interesting. Who has read the Regulatory Technical Standards number 2 of ESMA?
Wow. A few people in the crowd. Okay.
Wow.
And do you know, guys, it affects all of us. Like, really affects all of us, and it's super discriminating. Have you heard about US actually urgent demand? Who heard about it in media? Okay, not too much too. Okay, but again, in US, there's very active community, and they already cancel it. Like, imagine, cancel it, not just reply, they actually successfully dismissed it. So what we can do to do the same result in Europe? Well, and Rachel.
Yeah, because when we were we took a long time to put together the board of EBM, and I think it was so important. We have on the board, we've got Harold Rauter, who's actually sitting in the audience here, who's worked for a decade at the EU on the Green Deal, on the climate. So we're taking that. We've got another guy on the board who's from the energy regulations, and I think if you take the regulations that have come out of Europe and you show with these regulations how Bitcoin mining can be used to achieve these regulations, then it makes it much harder for them to ban it. So this is the approach that we want to take, that we can show that everything that Bitcoin mining does will help the European Union to achieve the regulations that are already there, already in place.
Sven, do you want to do it?
I think the only thing that I want to add is regulation will not go away. There's no way it'll go away. And if you want to take a part in shaping it, the best way or form that you can do, you actually have to read that stuff. And it's a lot of things that you need to read, and it takes people like you two, people like you, to move this forward. And I believe that, it is very time critical. So we have about 4 months left, and these 4 months that we have left are the months where things will be decided. It's 4 months. So if you are a miner, if you're here a miner in Europe, reach out now, and then we can make things happen.
Yes, exactly. Especially, guys, we don't have important people here in the room, but you know them, please help us to reach them, because this is for us, it's not just instrument. It's for you, maybe it's speculation, you have an options. We as activists, we don't have other options. For us, it's literally life and death. When we say on name of activists, it's those who actually cannot reach, who cannot come to sit in front of you and say, guys, please help us, because this is the only technology which saves our life. Most of people in authoritarian states, they absolutely financially excluded. They don't have credit cards. They don't have any cards. They don't have any financial instruments, a part of Bitcoin. And this is for you just to understand. Try to live one day with Bitcoin in democracies. And imagine that if it's worse with all surveillance instruments, it's in authoritarian states. So we need to support these guys. They use, and they're very grateful for all of you who support privacy technology. Just, any kind of instruments which allow us to actually fight for our rights and resist to democracies, to authoritarian regimes, and to bring these democracies to our societies. So for us, it's a real fight. We need your support. We need support also for
Geyer.work is the website. Contact us and help us to achieve the goals that we want to achieve.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.